Paul, introduce yourself to the people.
I'm Paul Jacobs. I'm the chairman and CEO of Qualcomm.
So we were talking really interesting. You were on stage just here at the Fortune conference. We're talking about where things are going, and you're very into this idea of smart books, which is not netbooks, and it's not cell phones, and it's not smartphones. Explain what that is.
Okay, so like a netbook to me is kind of a smaller, cheaper PC. But when you open it up, you still got to get online and download your stuff. What a smart book is it's basically a smartphone on steroids in some sense. It has a 10-inch screen and a full-size keyboard, but the cool thing is it's using a lot less power, so it's on the network all the time, more like a BlackBerry where it's downloading your email contacts calendar.
Or an iPhone. Or
an iPhone. It's downloading your stuff all the time, synchronizing your social networking status and so forth. And I think it's going to be a really big change in mobile computing because you're going to have these very, very lightweight things. Well, let me put it this way. You will have, when you close the lid and that screen goes off, because the processor is so low power, you're basically going to have a smartphone running on a laptop-sized battery.
Interesting.
Just imagine how long that's going to last.
Right, exactly. So why are people so focused on netbooks then? The idea of this idea of cheap, it's just cheap computers essentially.
Yeah, I think what's happened is, given with the economic downturn, people were looking for a little cheaper way of having a computer. And so when they came out, they were something totally different. They were going to be these Linux devices. But they did migrate to being basically a Windows machine on an Intel processor. But we're talking about something different, something that's much more like your smartphone than like your PC.
How important is the shift to this smartphone, smart books, whatever, the idea that we're going to have this sort of mobile device versus the desktop or even the laptop kind of paradigm that we've been having for many years? How does that change computing?
Well, I think, we have sort of a perfect storm going on because we're getting these devices out there, we're getting these very high-speed networks out there, but then there's also this whole thing of cloud computing. So you're getting applications that are going to come off the web into your device, a combination of devices that are there with you and off the web, and then you have access to all the internet, all the storage there, all the entertainment there, and so it's going to mean that you're going to have a thing that's really a hybrid between something that you carry with you and something that connects into the cloud.
And what does that do to the amount of data that's going on? That's a big issue right now, the data, not just the storage, but the idea of how it gets to you and how slow it is.
Right, so you're going to get some of that data over the wide area cellular network. You're going to get some of that data by connecting over Wi-Fi when you're in your house. We're doing a broadcast service, which right now we're showing mobile TV on, but it's going to do things like data casting. So you might cache content on your device, the top YouTube videos or something like that.
Because that's a big issue now with AT&T and iPhone. I mean, I don't think people realize how much data people are going to pull down.
Oh yeah, and I was talking to an operator in Japan who was telling me that 80% of their traffic was people watching YouTube videos on their iPhones.
But why wouldn't they do that? I mean, of course, that's once they get an opportunity to do this. I mean, the only problem is if it doesn't work and the annoyance of it not working.
Oh, that's the issue. We had this situation in Korea when we first launched the EVDO networks there. And it was flat rate, and they had all these broadcast TV services, and it basically took down their network. And so they ended up having to go to per packet pricing. And guess what? People stopped watching so much video because video is about 100 times more data than voice.
So it has to be like one price.
Yeah, it's got to be a flat rate thing. And then the operator is going to have to find ways to manage it, whether it's offloading content or caching content in the middle of the night, trying to find things that are most popular and getting that stuff already out there.
Right.
And you have it also with websites, by the way. I mean, when you have a website that's got rich media on it, it downloads slower. So if you could cache the rich media advertising on your device and then play that out, well, now the thing's going to come up really fast.
How important is the processor? What's going on in processors right now? I mean, among the three big ones,
Yeah, so the processor's really important. So we have, we just announced a 1.3 gigahertz processor, which does more than 2 instructions per cycle. So it's basically like a laptop processor, but it's much, much lower power than the thing that's in your PC. So what that means is that the processor's not the thing that's, the battery's there to support anymore. The battery is now only the life support system for the display.
Display, right.
But we're working on that too.
Right.
We got a display technology that does full color video and full motion and all the things that you'd expect, and that'll come out over the next few years.
Interesting. And screens, lastly, where are those going?
Yeah, so the screen's going to be, in terms of prices?
Everything.
Yeah, I mean, so there are going to be a lot more reflective low-power technologies for the screens. Everything's going to be touch, I think.
Right.
Now that you have the iPhone and you're used to multi-touch, everybody's going to want that.
Yeah, my 4-year-old can't touch a screen without trying to gesture it or do something to it.
It just became the natural way of doing it. So I think, that's pretty clear. It's going to have that happen. And then when you get the operators in there and you have a service associated with it, now they get subsidized. So they're much, much cheaper than a traditional
Right.
PC that you've been using before.
So what's in the way, Paul? What's the thing that's going to muck it all up?
Well, I mean, for us, the big issue is just making sure that there's a software developer ecosystem, that people do build compelling apps, that all of these things on the cloud do come to pass. I mean, you know, having Microsoft talk about putting Office on the
I know.
web, I mean, that's great.
I know, health froze over. I'm not sure if you know that, when that happened, stuff like that.
I haven't been there recently.
Yeah,
so.
right. So, and finally, what's your favorite device? What do you use now? You use a Kindle, you're saying?
Yeah, I have a Kindle. I mean, I
You have
carry
everyone.
a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
even on me, I normally carry about 2 or 3 devices. So, you know, I have a MiFi device, I have a Pre, I have an LG device, I have some Samsung devices.
Do you use the mirror on the Pre?
Do I use
No, I'm teasing. I had a
the
fight
mirror,
with Roger McNamee about the mirror on the Pre, but that's neither here nor
that's kind
there.
of a funny thing to have
Yeah.
put on the back. But
Well, apparently ladies love it, according to Roger. But what do you think the most important sort of tech trend, internet trend is right now? If you had to pick one.
so into the future for the mobile world, I think social networking is actually very, very important because your phone's going to be this way that you interact with all your digital information. Now the question is, how do you manage, what's the granularity of managing your privacy associated with it? So if I look out and I say, okay, my opinions I'm willing to share with everybody for free, no constraints, but my health information, I really don't want a lot of people to be able to see that. So I think managing those kinds of things are interesting.
Right.
The Pre's got a really cool feature where you hook it up to Facebook, and when my daughter changes her picture on Facebook, it changes on my contact list. So when she calls me, a new picture shows up. But you know what? I'd actually like a different picture for my daughter to see than I'd like for my work you know, colleagues to see. And so
Right.
getting that kind of granularity,
Right,
hooking all
absolutely.
of that stuff in, then also making it location aware. So when you're walking around, you see who's around you that you might be friends with. You know, somebody might be close by that you didn't even know. That kind of stuff. I think all that stuff's going to be really cool.
Or
in
a
the next few
stalker. It
years.
could be stalkery, frankly. I don't
Well, that's
know.
why I say privacy is super important. I mean,
Yeah.
you really want to be able to manage
Right.
that in a pretty granular fashion, and only let the people that you want to know where you are know where you are.
Excellent. Thank you, Buck Rogers. I appreciate it.
Thanks.